In the previous video, we explored 3 short scenarios and identified a way in which a core of apps could be woven throughout the whole process before, during and after. Let's have a look now at apps that students could use for mind mapping purposes to organize their thinking, apps they can use to take notes in different formats, and apps that they can use to collaborate with each other. There is a plethora of mind mapping apps available on the App Store, but on your screen are 12 that are particularly good for different purposes. Some of these are free, and some of these are paid. Some of them are useful solo apps, in that when you create the mind map, the information just stays inside the app, whereas others have the ability to share the mind map that you've created in different ways, maybe as a JPEG or as a PDF, or to be able to share it online via a service such as Google Drive. Some of the apps are also able to synchronize with another device, such as a computer, and some of them synchronize with an online service, so you could quite happily log in anywhere and carry on with the mind map. And more importantly, you could give contributing rights to someone else as well. A key benefit of mind mapping is the ability to organize thinking and visualize and represent thinking. In order to create the mind map, a lot of research has to have happened beforehand. It could have been from reading research articles, from reading texts, or from browsing online. Here, for example, we have a website, and this could have actually been used to create the mind map. But I'm going to use one app in particular called Cloud Art. I'm simply going to copy the web address of this page and open up Cloud Art. In Cloud Art, you can start writing from scratch, just from text, but I'm going to create a representation from this web address. Just paste in the web address and click on Start, and now this app will browse through the article and create a visualization of the highest frequency words, and it pulls this directly from the website. This could then be saved onto the camera roll and be used in a presentation. So once students have used their mind mapping tools, it could well be that they then come into a session to take notes, and they could take notes in different ways. On your screen are 3 groups of note-taking apps. The first group on the left-hand side are purely for voice recording. It could be that the students are in a small session, for example, and simply recording their voices in their own groups. The apps on the right-hand side of the screen are like the Notes version in iOS 9, in that you can draw or enter text to take notes. The apps in the middle of the screen, Super Notes, Audio Notes, and Explain Everything, allow you to combine drawings with text with audio recordings. There are many apps available designed to assist collaboration. We've explored Padlet already. There are apps on the screen, again, some paid, some free, that allow users to work on their own, work with one other person, save content inside an app, or, ideally, export content which can then be shared with other people, for example, exporting what they found out to Google Drive. Some of the apps that we've mentioned briefly here may well be of use to academics as well as students. It's important to reinforce the point that it is not the responsibility of the academic to have a working knowledge of every single app. The students will be able to explore different apps, and they will be able to identify the apps best suited to their purposes. But in terms of a workflow, the academic could simply say, I would like you to use mind mapping apps to organize your thinking and identify apps that will help you to collaborate together, because as a group you are going to produce a final outcome. or I want you to work together in a group, and then use your collaborative thinking to create something on your own. Let's look at a very quick example. Here's the task. This involves an element of assessment for learning, reading articles and annotating them, sharing in group work, and then presenting their findings. This is how it might break down before sessions, during the session, and after a session. The students use Padlet to organize their initial thinking. They then look at articles online. They may look at the EPUB that you have created for them. They then work together using here Google Docs, and they might create their own Padlets. And everything that they have learnt will then be presented to the rest of the class as a multimedia presentation. So here we have a core of apps that all link together sequentially to lead to a final outcome. It could be much more complex than this, but this is an easily manageable, simple workflow. Hopefully that will have given you some idea of how we can take a small collection of apps and put them together in order to create a teaching sequence or a workflow. It doesn't need to be complicated, and in fact, less is definitely more sometimes. It might be that the workflow that you create represents minimum expectations, and the students can then personalize it by bringing in apps that they have found, and they can then share that with other students when they come to present their final piece of work. The intention here is also to show how iPad can fit in with what you already have intended to deliver. The shift of emphasis comes in that it is moving the responsibility over onto the students to think more critically and find ways of evidencing their own learning. And this is all the more important because they will have been pursuing their own independent lines of inquiry, so there's a greater sense of ownership over their own learning. If you're interested in reading more around this, there is an excellent book by Shirley Clarke called Active Learning Through Formative Assessment, available from Hodder Education.